Okay, so I will hold this up. Wait. But basically, besides the material, the paper's different, the brush different. Another thing that is different is the loading of the brush. All right. So okay. Um, so loading of the brush. With you are I mean, I think all of you are watercolorists. Just like in last night demo, like you have a palette regardless of size. And when you are, like in the process of painting, um, you will have a mixture of, say, for example, if I'm going to have yellow, then I'll have some yellow on my palette. And then, um, this is like whatever the sauce is, right? This is your sauce. And then you will have a mixture of the color. And then you dip into the color and then you will paint. And of course, if you are a more sophisticated watercolorist, then you may make a pool of, say, yellow and maybe like some kind of, brownish tone, and then have it in the same puddle, right? So just like last night demo, so you have the same puddle, but then in this puddle is more brown on this edge and more yellow on this edge. So when you are picking up the color, you may dip into here, or dip into here. So when you reload, you can change the color, right? So that's usually what a watercolorist would do, which is very typical of that, right? But then usually when you go to a Sumier workshop, you may not see a palette like that. And of course, you may see small little dishes. And that's exactly what I usually do. And I bought this to show, this is a typical Japanese watercolor set. And it comes in little tray of color. It's kind of like the pan color that you guys use. And and then I purposely picked this up from the box, but basically, they are pan color, right? And then what I would usually do is, it doesn't come with a palette, so I would have a white dish. So that would be my palette, and this will be the sauce. Similar to this, I will be pick. This will double as this, right? So the yellow, I'll have yellow. The brown, I have the brown, and instead of doing a puddle of yellow and brown, a pool of color that I can pick up, what I would do is this. Okay, so this is kind of like the difference of brush painting. I would, I mean, like this is pan color, but a lot of times I would even have little dishes and then my color sauce, and then I'll put it into a pool. So my pool of color will be in my little dish. And this morning, I actually add some water to this. So this is easily pick up. But basically, this is the main color. I will pick up the color, and this is just to tap. What I would do is this. If I want something that grade from blue to black, the thing I would do is I would, first of all, I'll always wet my brush, never put a dry brush into color, which is not watercolors would do too. You never put a dry brush into the color. So you wet your brush with water. So, like with water, and then you glide it, with this is the edge of the whatever container. You make sure that you don't have too much water, right? So, and if you need to, you may even pick up a paper towel and make sure that it's not too wet, because if it's too wet, it's concentration, right? With its complete concentration, something has to go before it can absorb more things. So you can even tap it a few times to absorb some of the liquid. So you have a moist brush, right? And then you put it into the color that you want as the base. For example, I like to do the green because it's more amazing to see. So let's see my green. Okay, so okay, I will um, do it. I mean, once I load the brush, it will be brushwork. Okay, so I will do my yellow, right? I'll put it in the entire brush. So I'll mix it and put it into my entire brush. So the entire brush has yellow. I need a little bit more water. So I have yellow, okay? And then in this particular instance, I want to have yellow, orange, red, right? So instead of making another pool of orange here, I have my orange. This is actually a queen coral, but what the heck, right? I'll pick up, but I'll only pick up halfway. So I don't go all the way, I go halfway, right? So I will have it halfway around like this. And then of course, as I say, you don't want too much moisture, so you glide a little bit. And then depending on how red my flower will be, I can have 1/3 red or just on the tip. And I'm going to only use the tip, just touch a little bit of red. And this will be my plate to just glide it once to make sure that it's just like to make sure it merge together. So glide it once. And if you want to, you can use a plotting paper to test, to look at the mixing. So the mixing is on the brush. So that's the difference. So we are not having a pool of, multicolor, but we are actually having little pools of, resources that you have, and then a little bit of mixing, and let's do some painting, right? Enough talk. So, all right. So rice paper, what do we do with yellow, orange, red flower, right? So when we are doing a typical watercolor painting, right? With this is a petal, right? And typically with this is a flower, usually it's lighter in the middle, darker on the tip. So it will be red, orange, and yellow, right? And then, of course, there are different ways to do that. Sometimes you flood it with water, sometimes you do other things. But basically, typically, what we will do is we will have yellow here, and before it dry, we put orange here, and then on the very tip, we drop a little bit of red here, and then do it with speed and patience, so it merge and become like this, right? For brush painting, we do it like this. And that's the petal, right? So say, see, yellow, orange, okay. So a little bit stronger. So you already have the flower, right? But of course, like you can do a refinement to make it more like the flower. But then that's basically the difference between brush painting is the brush itself and also the loading of the brush, right? So now let's talk about various strokes, right? Because I know that, like just that you know how to do, I mean, like the science of this, but how do you do this, right? So mainly, there are two different ways. First of all, if you hold the brush only using the tip, you get a really narrow line, right? If you press harder, you get a wider line. And that's and then if you do the brush sideways, then you get all the color and gradation on the brush with the width of the brush, right? So that's the three difference. But then if you want to manipulate the brush, what you can do is look at the handle, right? You you press down, you lift up, then you can have thick and thin on the same stroke. See, this is what I say a typical bamboo. So you can thick and thin on the same brush. But of course, we are watercolors. We don't want bamboo. We want something else, right? So we can have, actually use green. So I have a tendency to actually go with ink because it's sumi, right? Ink. But let's do some green and black. At least have some gradation, right? You can have a blade of leaf to the left, to the right, but then there's only a single blade. Let's do, this would be a leaf that look like this. Free stroke, one down, two left, two right, okay? And how do you reinforce this? Since, like sometimes the thing already look like it, but sometimes it doesn't. So what you do is you use the nature of the subject. For example, leaves, you add the vein, right? If you add the veins, then it will look more like it. Let me just do it stronger. Here. Right? Or like that. So you reinforce it. Okay. Then how about flower, right? So let's do another one. Maybe this one. The whiter paper probably show more. Right. So if you have a flower, let's do a purple flower. Okay. Purple, red and blue makes purple, right? So you can do two things. You can have only red and blue, or you can have red, purple and blue, and you can have red, purple, blue, and water, or white and things like that. So it's up to you. So let's do this. For example, um, I will have this is like a purple color, right? So I have a purple color. But then because I want I'm doing an iris, by the way. I want my flower to have not just purple, but a tint of blue or a tint of red to it. So my final color will be the color I want to change into, right? So for example, I have my purple here, and I, on the tip, touch it with a little bit of red. Then here, it, okay, we can zoom in a little bit closer, but I can make it bigger, right? So here, the petal of a typical iris, three petal going up, three falling down, right? So press down, go out. You have both color, the red and the purple. Reload. Yes, yeah. Reload. Okay, so you have the three going up, right? Now going down. Going down. With this is like, it depends on how elaborate you want your flower. If you want it simple, you can do it like that. So that is a simple iris. And you just do another one. I do this because iris usually have a yellow, kind of like a different color. Then you can put the yellow here. And that would be a very simple iris in a Japanese sumie painting, right? So if we want to do it kind of like more Western watercolor iris, right? So we can do it again. We would have the purple and then the red and the blue. Okay, so we have the purple here on the entire body of the brush. Then I want to pick up, maybe this time I pick up a little bit of blue. See, this is a too dark a blue. Maybe I should pick up a lighter one, but what the heck? Yeah. So we'll have the one going up. So, okay, so this is the subtle, I mean, when it dry, the color will pops up more. So we'll have one petal going up, another petal going up, and maybe another one in the back. All right, so three petal, and then petal falling down. Reload the brush with water, purple, and then my blue. Right. I wanted to have, like more ruffle, right? So I'm actually going to do the brush in a zigzag manner. Zigzag. Because of the water continue to come down, it will have this gradation already, right? So, and then of course, when you're doing it, you also have to think about the 3D of the flower. You don't want it to be too, um, like a mugshot photo. So you want it to be at an angle. So this one will be maybe you only see this much, but this one you see more like that, all right? And since this is a iris, sometimes it may have little petal coming out here and here, right? So that is another iris. You can call it done. Or if you are really into detail, then before it dries, which is similar to watercolor, before it dries, because you don't want a hard line on the details, you can add the detail, like to do the light and shadow. Or sometimes, depending on the flower, sometimes some flower even have the really elaborate line that you can see, right? Depends on, but do it when it's still moist, because if it is completely dry, then they look like they're add-on. You don't want it add-on, right? So you can do it as elaborate. And then, by the way, in Sumie, the use of opaque white is not a no-no. I mean, unless you enter into a transparent watercolor society, right? So the use of opaque color is fine, because in Sumie, a lot of the material are mainly made of what we call plant source or mineral source. Anything of mineral source is opaque. So we have a color called stone blue, stone green. They are actually grinded from stone. So white. Do you know what white is grinded from? I mean, this one is Western. This is gouache, all right. But then in traditional sumie, the white is actually grinded from seashell. Seashell, yeah. I mean, like there's a process. They have to, I mean, like a particular kind of seashell, oyster shell, seashell, and then they also have to smoke it for a certain number of days, and then grind it, and then like the white powder that they made from the seashell is something that um, is really opaque. But of course, like I'm in America, I use gouache, right? And when you use gouache, you don't use it directly from the tube. You actually have to dilute it a little bit to make it into like a very soft consistency. And I'll show you here. Because it's still wet, right? It's still wet. You make sure it's not too thick. And you want lost and found edges. So I'll do it because this is really dark here. You follow the lines. So when when it's dry, it will even be more lost and found. And the combination of color on this and white on this can make a pretty good combination, and pretty good and pretty convincing. The iris is already complete, right? So you can use this particular way and add it to your watercolor painting. Okay, if you are skillful in doing this, so the whole painting can be like this. But if you are, say, I'm really into my watercolor, you can do a iris painting, and this could be easily added to the background with wet on wet, freehand, and you can really enhance your painting like that. Yes. I mean, for most of my flowers, I use a combination brush because I like the ability to absorb the moisture, but I also want the bounce so it come back to the shape for me to have this kind of, um, like um, petals, right? So let me just show you maybe another one. Okay. Um, I have purple already out, so we'll do something with the same theme, purple, right? So I decided to do a grape, right? So with it is a regular grape. Um, we usually, to make it 3D, we'll have a highlight, right? And then of course, like anything that is a spear, then it'll be darker here, like medium light and darker here. But then this is how you kind of make people think that it's a spear, it's a ball, right? So so of course in watercolor you will do the like red to blue, blue to red, and like make sure that this is either a uh, masking fluid or you paint around it, right? So in brush painting, this is what I do. I will have the color of my grape. So probably red and blue, right? Yes, good. Yeah. And if you like, you can even add some opaque white to it. And then I have, this is green gold. It's a, yellowish green. I love this color, but it's green gold. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the grape, and so let's start fresh. I have my brush, then it's a dark color grape. So I have my blue onto the entire body. But I don't want a blue grape, I actually want a purple grape. So I can use purple, or I can add a little bit of red. So I already have some kind of reddish, so if I test the color, it look like this, right? But that doesn't look too appetizing. So let's add a little bit of green to it, right? So this is what I would do. I would, because I'm aware of this uh, highlight, so I'll do this here, right? And then from here, press down the brush and go out. And that's one grape, right? When it's one grape, it may not look that convincing, but if you do a bunch, then, oh, by the way, if you do a bunch, you can always correct what you don't like later. But then, like this highlight is completely natural. So one line out, one line go up, right? But this one I actually wait a little bit longer. And I think, I think I need more red. So if you do a bunch of this, and usually I don't reload my brush until like after, oh, by the way, that's why I say you can correct your mistake with, you don't have a perfect circle here. You just put another grape on top of it, right? I mean, and then of course, be mindful of the shape that you are doing, right? So usually when it's green, that means it's not ready to be eaten. When it's more red or purple, that means it's ready to be eaten. So let's do some new one. And after you do a bunch, you also have to make sure that you have some overlap, right? And of course be mindful of the triangular shape of how the grape come down. And of course, now this is typical of how we will, like do finish it, because this look like one layer. So of course, if you want, like more 3D look, you add half circle to make it look like some of them are behind, right? And things like that. And as I say, like this is not perfect, so I can add another to cover it, right? So that's essentially how you would do the grapes. So that's, I mean, as I say, I mean, my goal today is not to, like convert everyone into a painter, but then, these could be something that you can add to your watercolor. This could be something if you are doing a bunch of grapes, and, like whatever is in the focal point will be your favorite way of, coloring detail and things like that. But then you don't want it to be in in the emptiness. You want it to be in a yard with a lot of grapes, and you want some in the background. This would be a way to do it. Or this could be a way to, you have some hard edges. This could be the soft edges, you know and and things like that. So and of course, if you are, like if this is a painting that I'm going to finish, then of course I need to add details of, like things that kind of convince you that it is the grape. So maybe the power of suggestion. If you put a little dot on the end to make sure that they kind of go to the center, then it even look more convincing that it's hanging from the tree. So those are the things that um, I am going to show you. So any questions? Yes. Okay. So we have We have the iris, we have the grape. So let's change and because I want to show you various way to do things and so yeah. Uh, okay. I use watercolor. I use watercolor. I have been in America for majority of my life now. So I'm Asian, but I'm Asian American. I, I'm more a fusion person, so I use regular watercolor, and it's nothing against this. Um, the traditional paint, as I say, they are usually two kinds: the vegetable one, or they call the plant one, or the mineral one. And then when it comes to Nihonga, the Japanese national painting, a lot of them are ground from minerals. So they are very opaque. And they are actually processed to add glue to it. And so there's a really big process. But then when you, I mean, I'm sure that I'm not endorsing anybody, but for example, like in the Daniel Smith catalog, they will explain to you how they extract the colors. They are from mineral as well. Like they have a really nice blue turquoise. They are actually from turquoise. Because that's how they grind the color from. So that's how a lot of the um, colors are from. They are either from plant based, flowers or different kind of plant or root. I mean, believe me, root, can have really deep color and things like that. Yes. It depends on the material. I myself have been using regular water. I mean, actually, combination of watercolor for most of my artwork. So I may not be the best person to answer that. And besides, with technology, a lot of the material from Asia, they are using Western technology in preparing it. Yeah. So when you are doing that, it actually could be the color that you are going for, but may not be the material. Because if you're really into painting this stuff, you don't even use this. You actually use little bottles, little jar of grind minerals, and you mix your glue yourself. If you're really into this, yeah. So um, I'm going to show you the magic of opaque white. All right. So um, I'm going to use my favorite color, which is Elysium Crimson. Not a, not a typical color. And let's put it here. So we don't need to do this. We have a mixing plate. Um, this is Elysium Crimson, or at least I think it is. Yeah, okay, it is. Elysium Crimson is a very blue um, color. So because this is my source, so I'm going to have a good pool of color that I can just easily dip my brush and reload, right? And then I already have my white, and this is wash, and I'm going to actually have a little bit more of my white, which is also on a little plate, so I can easily dip into it and pick that up. But I will still have the jar ready if I want a more concentrated consistency. And if you grease the the paint from the tube, don't dilute it all into a pool. Also have a little dot, so you can pick up really intense red when you need to. So this is moist and this is intense red. So I have two, and if I want to, I can even have a pink, maybe somewhere here if I want to, right? So so I'm going to show you the magic of opaque white. The first thing, do a you do a pink halo. Okay. Okay. And usually, um, if you're really painting for yourself, then you go grab a cup of tea because now it's too wet, right? But then since we don't have all the time, but don't go to a hair dryer, by the way. Don't go to a hair dryer. If you're really doing it in a hurry, just use a little bit of paper. And I mean, you may lose some of your color, but then don't go to a hair dryer because a hair dryer would actually just dry it. You don't want it. I want a moist paper that has a pink halo on the back. Make sense? Right? So now I'm going to do a flower. I'm going to go to my, yeah, you can see everything. Okay. I'm going to my flower. I'm going to my red. I want, because I have kind of compensated that I made a little bit lighter, so I want it darker, right? But of course, since it's darker, it's moist. Okay, now that is good. Because of contrast, I'm going to use white first. Okay, how about this way? Usually whatever is the first, you want the darkest dark with the lightest light, right? So this is the center of the flower, darkest dark. So I give it the lightest petal. I give it the white petal. Right? Front two petal, back, right? So now it go further out. So I want my pink. Pick up my pink. I put the second layer. Good. We can do a flower in 3 minutes. Okay, that's the second layer, right? And then I go to my outer layer. I pick up a little bit more of my red. So this is my, so you probably notice I also add water to my brush, but I did not wash it because these pink are good, right? I don't want to have to reload my whole brush, but then I noticed that I use up a lot of my moisture. So I'm going to, so this, I want it to be stronger on the edge, right? Guess what flower it is? It's a, it's a peony. So I want it to be stronger color. So, right. So now it just looked like a big blob, right? So what you want is, again, if we have time, we'll go, like enjoy your tea because you also don't want it to like force it to dry. You want it to dry a little bit. But as I say, since this is a demo and we don't have time, we'll compensate and make it maybe like, not as bright color, but then at least we can show you the steps, right? So we'll pretend that, maybe a minute had passed and it has drier, right? But usually we don't do that. We actually wait for it to be still moist, but then dry enough for me to do something, right? Okay, so I take a lot of moisture out. Of course, I compensate it because I pick up some color. You see, it's already a little bit more convincing, right? So now, from here, you refine it, right? How do you refine it? You do two things, which is exactly what watercolors do. On area that you need to add the red, you add it. And on area you need to lighten, you lighten it. So in the center, I can darken this a little bit if I think that I need more contrast, right? So I do that to make it look kind of like more, because this is the center of the flower, right? And then on area I need to lighten, which, like it doesn't look like there's a lot of area I need to lighten. I think the petal actually looks pretty good. So maybe we will do this instead. We will actually add the details of the ruffles, right? So maybe, so you notice that besides the liquidy one, I actually go to the source. So I have thicker print here, and I'll just,
It is, it is 10 o'clock.
okay.
And if you would join me in thanking Joan for a wonderful demo. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. She'll be cleaning up and packing up her things. So if you have questions, I encourage you to come forward and kind of chat with her. And I believe she has materials over there.